the child's mind between like 2 to 3 years old to 7 or 8 years old is in a brainwave frequency called theta, and they're essentially being programmed. So if yeah, it's what you're saying. Like, that program is going to be very hard to undo once they get out of theta. They're going to have to learn to meditate and get back down into theta frequency, which is essentially that
And
state of
order a Starbucks while you're in that mode. You got to go, but you got to be in a meditative state and be ordering Starbucks and looking around at people and relearning that shit. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like our subconscious or unconsciousness.
And then here's the crazy part. A lot of people who get these skills then start reacting to the perceptions that they're having and fuck themselves further. That you have to develop the skill and then not react to it also.
Mhm.
Right? Or
Theta
else
is essentially like the programming.
hence
It's when we're programmed, and it's our software doesn't allow us to be reprogrammed in any other frequency besides theta. So just because you learn something, like if somebody tells you the earth is flat, like right now in waking awareness, you could take that knowledge, but it's not going to change or shift your perception. But if you're in theta, that's like even like like it's like a hypnotic state. And that's what TV does for people. Back to television, it brings you into that relaxed couch potato programmed state of being. That's why TV is so important. It's why it's promoted. Everybody have a TV in every single room, because
What
that's
about
the
reading? What about reading?
programming mechanism.
Does reading put you in that? Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard taught me that. Yeah, we're Raw's channeling L. Ron Hubbard right now. Sorry, I should have told. That's what I said. Hey, what about reading? Does reading do that to you?
So reading,
I've read some books, and all of a sudden I'm like, woo, like I start getting a little weird. Like I remember reading when I read Interview of a Vampire with Anne Rice. Do you know that series? And I was like, shit, I'm starting to see vampires everywhere. I got to put this book down.
I haven't read that.
Yeah, don't. It's not. It's fun. It was fun.
The reading, you're a little bit more active when you're reading than when you're watching TV, because when you're TV, it's kind of like a passive input. When you're reading, you get to interpret the words into your own visuals. And when you're watching TV, you don't. That gets provided for you. So TV is just more passive than reading is. And so you still have a little bit of control over what you're reading, but you are definitely still in a state. If you're focused on the book, you're in a relaxed state. It's almost like you're having a conversation with the author.
This buddy calls me the other day and he goes, "Hey dude, I got to tell you something." I go, "Yeah, go ahead." He's not a Christian, this guy. I don't think he's a Christian. He's like, "I was in a shitty mood, man. I was so fucking pissed." I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "And you know how I'm reading the Bible?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I was 30 minutes into it and I was fucking happy as all get out." I'm like, "Listen, dude, you already got me into boxing. Don't try to convert me to become a Christian." He's like, "I'm just telling you the facts." He's like, "It's happened twice now."
The Bible is at a pretty good frequency to bring one into a state of alignment.
Do you have a book list of frequencies that bring the books that can bring
Yeah,
you into your
so
frequency? Do you really? That would be
well,
awesome.
no, I don't have a book list. I thought you were asking about what the frequencies were. Um,
Oh,
David Hawkins, like when I say the word frequency, David Hawkins uh, has the levels of consciousness. And so like at the bottom is shame, and anger is actually a couple steps up, because anger promotes action. And then it's like pride, and then eventually you get to joy and love and super consciousness.
can I see that list? I wanna see where I'm at. Okay.
Yeah, and this isn't something that you just sort of casually go through it.
Hold
He
on, I'm gonna
says,
casually go through it, don't hate me. What's an example of shame?
isn't there like a statement on some of
Like
these?
when I'm masturbating and I'm concerned that someone from
And
the
you feel
NSA is
bad
wa
for yeah,
No, I feel
shame,
bad for the person watching at the NSA, 'cause I don't
or
even
even telling somebody that they're wrong is a form of shame.
Oh, interesting, explain that to me.
when you look at something and you say that's bad or that's wrong, that's a shameful statement. You're projecting shame
Oh my
onto
goodness.
that.
So yesterday, my kid. So, oh my god, yesterday. So I experienced the lowest form of consciousness yesterday. Yesterday, my kid was on. So we have this really expensive skateboard ramp, right? And each piece of this skate light costs like $600. That's just the
Mhm,
cover for the fucking ramp. And underneath part of the one of the pieces of the skate light, it's rotted, so the skate light's bending. And
mhm.
um, my son said, uh, I just saw this picture and got distracted. My son said, "Hey," he said, "Hey, can we fix the skate ramp?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Whatever you do, don't jump on that piece that's broken." He goes, "Oh shit, I've been jumping on it." And I fucking was like, "Are you fucking crazy?" And I got so angry at him and I shamed him. He was devastated. I was devastated. I devastated both of us.
Well, you're learning.
Yeah, I shamed him.
That's an example
I
of
no wonder because I apologized and I didn't even kinda know what I was apologizing for, but I knew I'd done wrong. I was like, "Hey, dude, that was completely inappropriate what I how I went off on you. You're a fucking 9-year-old boy. You're supposed to jump on shit. That was my bad. Just don't jump on that spot anymore." But wow. Wow. Okay, let's see the next one. That was shame. So I shamed him and I felt horrible, right? Because I lowered my consciousness.
yeah,
Okay,
and
can I
guilt
see
is similar.
I don't really experience guilt. Oh, okay, here we are. Okay, shame, guilt, apathy. I don't experience apathy. Wound up. Grief. I don't do grief. I don't really do fear. I'm not afraid of the dark anymore, which is kind of weird. Desire. I like I like electronic equipment. I don't have strong desire though, really. Pride. Yeah, I get pissed off if someone tells like I get is pride and loyalty are those related at all? Like if anyway,
I
courage.
mean, pride is what fuels the army, right? They, like, literally use pride to encourage war.
Okay. What about courage? Like, if you have courage, because I don't have any courage.
So courage is like the neutral. 200 is the gateway between the victim and abuser mindset into like it's saying right here, self-empowerment. So 200 is kind of like a neutral state, and that's according to his teachings most of
Can you give me an
humanity.
example of courage? I'm trying to cultivate some courage.
So
Like, I think
cour
courage is, like, honest like, being honest is courage. Like, if you're an honest being honest, I have to cultivate courage to be honest.
yeah, yes. Courage can also be being afraid of something and doing it anyways. That's kind of the simple definition of courage. Doing something, like you said, saying something, um, but having you need to have regulation. People get into this state. This is where like the shadow side of things like courage comes in, is when you're like, okay, well, I said that thing that I was afraid to say, and now that means that I should just say whatever's on my mind. And then they're in that state where they're like, well, it's true to me, so I'm gonna say it without any self-awareness of what you're saying's impact on other people. So each one of these, yeah. Do you have any other questions on courage? Courage is courage.
Okay, we'll come back to it. I think I do. A neutrality, willingness, acceptance. I'm getting confused. What does it mean, willingness?
It means getting up off the couch.
Oh, okay. Acceptance, not fighting with
Acceptance,
yourself, accepting yourself.
accepting yourself and accepting others too. Like this is kind of where a lot of our conversation has been in, is like, are you able to look at reality and accept it without fighting it, without blaming, without
Wh-
going into shame and guilting others?
Okay, okay, I like that. Inner light.
So this is where very few humans go into. So we're going into like Jesus type figures when you're going above 400 and above, and I don't really have good explanations for these ones. But this is I just wanted to say earlier that this isn't something that somebody just hops up. This is a logarithm. This is like kind of like how the Richter scale works, which I don't really understand, but this isn't like a linear like 203 the difference between
Like a
100 and
6 point
200
Yeah, go ahead.
isn't like double. It's
So
like
an earth
10x or
yeah, an
100x.
earth is 6.1 and a 6.2. It's not it's 10 it's like I think it's 10 times stronger, the earthquake or something.
Yeah, so that's how this scale's working. It's humongous jumps that in a single lifetime somebody might go 50 to 100 points according to his teachings.
So right here, look at 600 to 670. Presence and non-duality. The non-duality thing is crazy for people because first you have to have presence. So I'll give you a really simple example and see what you think of it. I could say I don't like raw, and someone might who lives in duality would think that I dislike you. Like, they can't just accept the fact that I said I don't like raw and that I still haven't told you anything. So many people that presence thing, I feel like, is the real big delineation in humanity. Maybe you're right, maybe it's lower, but for that presence and non-duality thing, that's where I think so many fucking people are just
Mhm.
they just lose their shit. They can't even fucking grasp it. And that right there is where it's like, I think right there is where you're starting to get out of your head.
Y
You're starting to be,
the
as the Taoists say, only a confused man makes decisions. You're getting out of the, making decisions state.
well, look at what's before
You're in flow.
presence.
Okay, go ahead. Well, oneness?
Oneness. So you're
Yeah,
no longer viewing others as others or situations as they're happening to you. You're viewing them as you.
yeah, yeah.
And then non-duality is after presence, where you literally don't see right, wrong, up, down, good, evil. It's all the it's like same aspect or different aspects of the same thing. Like hot and cold, for instance. Where does hot begin and cold?
Like the demarcation line?
Yeah, like there is no difference between hot and cold at a certain thing. It's just temperature. They're the same thing. They're different aspects of the same thing. And so when you get to non-duality, you realize that. But this isn't like I said, this isn't just you don't just get to it. This is
But I think people experience those a lot, those things a lot. They have opportunities for those a lot. Like I don't think like you just I think that I'm guessing, I mean, I don't know this guy's work, but I'm guessing you flop around between these. Like, so you'll just catch yourself in um in one of these states. And then sometimes you try to go back and remember what you were thinking in those states or what you were experiencing, and you can't because you're fucking back stuck down in anger or desire.
yeah. It does seem like that to me that we have a standard mode of operation and we're able to witness other versions of ourselves. Sometimes when we're just around other people, they can you can act that's the thing with this is you get around other people, they can influence your state of being. And that's a whole other thing is how to become influential with your state of being amongst others. And that's about alignment. So if everything is from a scientific standpoint, everything's vibrating electromagnetic energy, right? And there really is no such thing as solid items. It's all just energy. And so if it's all just energy, we're fields of energy, our heart is resonating a frequency, a state of being. Can we influence other people's state of beings? And how does that happen? And so the Heart Math Institute has hooked people up in apartment buildings, and they've seen that people in apartments that are close to each other are actually influencing the emotions of the people above them, underneath them, to the sides to them. And they can see that in studies. And then they ask the question, well, who's doing the most influencing? Like which of these people? Because they couldn't say it was just the people that were the most loving that were doing the influencing. because people that are in a like if somebody angry walks into the room, it's almost like everybody gets overtaken by that. And what is that? How does that happen? And what they found is that they termed the phrase psychophysiological coherence. So psycho, mind, physiological, body or emotion. So it's like the people that are in the most alignment, their thoughts, actions, and emotions are in alignment. And so if you take somebody like Hitler, he was actually resonating pretty low on that scale. We're talking about like anger and pride, but he was in alignment. He acted on what he felt.
Oh,
He
damn.
said exactly what he felt. He did everything that he felt. He was in alignment, and he was able to influence massive amounts of people because of alignment. So alignment is actually what makes somebody influential. Authenticity is a very influential state of being, no matter where you are in that spectrum.
Wow. That makes amazing sense. And you can't fake that.
It comes down to your thoughts, emotions, and actions. And so, for instance, if you're going to a job that you hate every single day, you've got very low power within reality because you know that you don't, and you even feel that you know and feel that this isn't what would make me satisfied. So, satisfaction, joy, these are the emotions that let us know that we're in alignment. So if you're not feeling that with what you're doing 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, then you're out of alignment and you are not resonating as a whole put together being, and you've got very little power to be influential in the field of reality and within other people. So we get to find that, like, what resonates to us in our life, and as long as everybody's on that path, like, that's essentially one of my main goals and teaching points, is to wake people up to that point, is that we're our own map. We get to use our thoughts, our emotions to align our actions to it. And as long as we're all doing that, then we're very powerful and we're all living in our dream world. We're all manifesting creations from our greatest state of
Was
being.
Hitler living in his dream world?
Hitler was
And I don't mean
perfect.
really Hitler. I mean the imaginary Hitler that we're talking about now in the presence. I mean, like
So
no one should take this like we're trying to write history. I'm just saying
yeah, I actually got
Based on what Raw told us is in alignment. Like if there was no such thing as Hitler and you believe that and you have proof, we're not talking about that Hitler. We're just talking about the one that we're talking about right now, the fictional one that was in alignment and used that, even if it was low frequency, it was in alignment and had the outcome that he did. So no one get all
yeah,
twisted.
that's a good disclaimer because there's all sorts of
That's what I
narratives.
mean by awareness and presence and conscience and relativity and context and non-duality. So many people will just be like, anyway, go on. They get stuck in
So
their head and they can't fucking hear what we're really saying. It's but go on. Sorry. That
the
won't interrupt you
what
again
was
for
the
another 5
question? Was
minutes.
Hitler in alignment?
Was he in alignment? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell just by the amount of influence that
He was successful in
yeah.
his mission.
It's very hard to be able to influence and impact reality the way that the story of him did, um, the way that he did without being in alignment. It's the same thing when you watch, bringing up sports again. The reason why the entire audience stands up when the athlete is, on a breakaway or about to shoot that shot is because there's 100% focus and resonant alignment within the person you're watching, and the entire stadium falls into that. They literally get overtaken by that.
I want to get
And
into alignment while this microphone's in my face. I want to influence the world.
so I'd like to so even when people are meeting extraterrestrials, what they find is that the ET's frequency is so strong compared to ours. So, like, there's a guy, Daryl, who channels Bashar, who is a physical entity. But when he talks about meeting Bashar, which is an extraterrestrial who's living in a spaceship above Sedona, but he speaks about meeting
That's not
Bashar.
true, people. That's not true. Okay, go
It
ahead.
might not be. Yeah. It's just the story he's telling us. So when he meets Bashar, he sees himself through Bashar's eyes because Bashar overtakes his consciousness to a degree that he actually experiences Bashar's reality as opposed to his.
Okay.
So this is an example of how, like, if you even go into extraterrestrials, the reason why they're not coming down and just being amongst us is because it's very disruptive to our identity, because they're so much more in resonant frequency than we know how to be, that their consciousness just overtakes ours. And the people out there that have plants, and I'm just going to I go out on a limb when I hear that story, and I think to myself, okay, so then that's why my dog gets all, like, when my wife and I are having an argument or something, it's like our frequency is interacting with the dog, and he starts to change his behavior because our frequency has changed. Or if anybody that takes care of plants knows that if you're happy, your plants are happy. If your boyfriend breaks up with you or something and you go 2 months being depressed, you might have not even known this, but you can think back in your memories, you'll realize that your plants are all dying if you're going 2 to 3 months being depressed. It's because your frequency is so much stronger, or it's interacting with the plants and it's causing them to die as well. This stuff is all um back to, like, what do we do with it, right? The thing is that it doesn't matter if you believe it or not, because it works. And if you start to act in a greater frequency, like if you start to act within alignment, you're going to see your reality start shifting around you rather than you being the victim within your reality. But very few people are willing to do it, like you said. They're
That's
willing.
kind of the point of this the bent and the journey I've been on, and sort of the point of this show too, and I've been sharing that with people. Like, I don't care whether you're Christian or not. I wanna live in a country that has Christian values. You know why? Because it works.